Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:07. Good morning. Thanks for joining us here on O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 7:05, John Myrick is going to join us. He's a Republican running for Maryland governor. 8:05, Dr. Matthew Spalding. Big birthday. America's birthday. We're going to talk about it with the Hillsdale College man here in D.C. 8:35, Senator Marsha Blackburn. Find out what's going on at Capitol Hill. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Cassie Smedile. Good morning, Cassie.
Good morning, Larry. Great to be back with you.
Thank you. By the way, I should probably specifically, Marsha Blackburn is going to be joining us to talk about what they're going to be doing in the Senate with regard to the scandals, the fraud scandals in Minnesota and all the fraudsters. And she wants to denaturalize any Somali national who has obtained their citizenship. If they are defrauding the U.S. government and the U.S. taxpayers, she wants a law that would denaturalize them.
That sounds logical to me.
It makes a lot of sense. The left is against it.
Of course.
All right. So we've been following, and I've just found out, apparently, Cassie, that we're a bit of an outlier here on this program and on this radio station, spending a lot of time focusing on what's going on in Iran. This has not really been covered much by the corporate legacy media. I see a lot of people, European-based, who are complaining that the BBC is virtually ignoring it. Lord knows the free the enslaved people of the Middle East protesters that usually take up root on college campuses for the Gaza cause, eerily silent right now when it comes to the oppressed people of the Persian nation of Iran. They couldn't care less about people being oppressed there. It's almost like their focus is on who's doing the so-called oppressing. Of course, in the case of Gaza, it's Israel. And, well, for some reason, they don't like Israel. I'm not sure why. I can't put my finger on it. Not that the Israeli government is in any way comparable to the authoritarian theocracy that the mullahs brought in the late 70s. But if you think of their logic, the left's logic, you would think that they would be out there protesting and camping out on the campus of Columbia University. What, they're not doing it now just because Trump's, done a crackdown? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it.
Right. Well, first of all, I always say there's serious issues with our education system in moments like these. I mean, you just told them more than they knew about Iran in 10 seconds.
Probably.
But also, I did tune into the Golden Globes for about 10 seconds and couldn't help but notice that praise for the Iranian people ribbons were missing as well.
That's right. Mark Ruffalo was wearing his Free Gaza pin, but nothing for the people of Iran. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So we've been covering it quite a bit here, even if corporate legacy media has ignored it. We had Elisa Daftari, who's an expert on the region, joining us yesterday to give us the details on these protests. It's just a remarkable thing. It reminds me of the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Iron Curtain in the late 90s, early 2000s. Late 80s, early 90s. Sorry, I get my decades mixed up sometimes at my age. So part of this story is the Crown Prince of Iran. This would be Reza Pahlavi. He's actually lived in Northern Virginia. It's rumored that I keep saying this only as a half joke, but I think he's a WMAL listener. Although he's, a little occupied right now over in the Middle East, so I doubt he's listening on the app. But Prince, call us. We'd love to talk to you. There are calls from the Persian Street to have him come in as a unifying force to sort of bring order to the chaos and hopefully usher in some democratic process. Let's not forget, I think he was brought here when he was 12 years old in exile with his father. So he is American. He's lived here for 5 decades nearly. So I doubt that he's going to, come back in there and then set up a monarchy, right? I think it's the idea of having a unifying force similar to what you see in England, where you've got a ceremonial monarchy to a uniting force and sort of a head of state that everyone can rally around. And then you have a parliament and some kind of democratic process because, again, he's been influenced by U.S. politics. So he's a big figure here. He granted an interview to CBS News' Norah O'Donnell. Norah O'Donnell treated him like he was the hostile enemy. This is I have never seen anything like it. He represents the freedom fighters. He represents the people who are trying to shake loose from the authoritarian Islamic regime in Iran, the leading state sponsor of terrorism for the last 5 decades. Listen to Norah O'Donnell speaking to, again, Iranian Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Cut 1.
And as you are urging people to protest and go to the streets, the death toll is rising in Iran. This violent crackdown continues just as it has in past attempted revolutions. I mean, is it responsible to be sending citizens in Iran to their deaths? Do you bear some responsibility?
As I said,
hold on, pause it there. Can you believe that guy? By the way, I'd love to follow Norah O'Donnell's train of thought here. So she would agree that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar and Kamala Harris bear some responsibility for any deaths in Minneapolis or on the streets where we're seeing all of these protests. Don't they bear some responsibility? Is it their fault that Mrs. Good got shot to death by an ICE agent in Minneapolis? That's the same logic there, which, by the way, I, in this case, would agree with.
Right. Good question, though. Perhaps the follow-up. But what did he say? Can we?
Yeah, let's listen to his answer.
Responsibility.
As I said, this is a war, and war has casualties. In fact, in order to preserve and protect and minimize the death toll, minimize innocent victims yet again be killed by this regime, action is needed. The regime is going to try and brutalize its citizenry as it has always done. But we are in a fight for liberation. I didn't ask the people to come to the streets to fight against the regime because I wanted so. They asked me to step in to help them and to be their voice on the outside world, to do everything that we can so we make this uprising successful this time. And I think we have some serious leaders that understand what is necessary, that understand the ask of the Iranian people, and are responding to that. I think President Trump is responding to the call that the Iranian people have. The Iranian people have heard his words. They are naming streets after him in Iran. There's a difference. They know he's no Barack Obama or Joe Biden. And that's why they do have a higher expectation.
And that's why Norah O'Donnell is hostile to him. That's why the BBC is ignoring this. That's why the rest of the corporate legacy media is ignoring this story. Because the fact of the matter is the people in the streets, yes, hate the Ayatollahs, hate the regime. They want freedom. But at the same time, they're embracing American ideals projected by President Trump. And that's the problem.
That's the big sin that they committed.
That?
Yes.
That's right.
Wow. That was something.
In fact, listen to Norah O'Donnell here. Again, he's the freedom fighter. He's the one representing the enslaved people who are trying to throw off their irons of burden. Listen to Norah O'Donnell here.
I mean, is it responsible to be sending citizens in Iran to their deaths? Do you bear some responsibility?
Michael, I'm sorry I didn't cue you up there. I've got this audio here. Listen to this one from Norah O'Donnell.
Reza, when I have talked to my sources in the region about what is happening in Iran, they point out that there has been this cycle that we talked about, starting with the Green Revolution in 2009, and every year. And what occurs is people rise up in Iran wanting change, and then there is this violent crackdown with hundreds, thousands killed, and then it fizzles out because there are not cracks in the regime. There is not a crack and fissure within the elite. What can you say today that makes this any different? There's no sign yet that there have been any cracks in the regime.
Unbelievable. I've spoken to my sources there, and they say this happens all the time, but it's inevitable. The authoritarians are going to crack down. So what's the point, really? What's the point of all of this? Can you believe that?
She must be on the Ayatollah talking point distribution list.
One wonders. A little bit more on this remarkable Norah O'Donnell interview, where she just sort of, defecates all over the idea of the people of Iran rising up and trying to remove themselves from the totalitarian Islamic regime. And then what President Trump said yesterday to further support the cause of freedom in Iran. We'll get to that in a moment.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Oh, not if you're Norah O'Donnell. The people are the problem if you're Norah O'Donnell. Sounding much like Iranian state television. Norah O'Donnell there for CBS News. Still with CBS News, right? Yeah, just checking there. Barry Weiss, you've got a problem over there. She's basically blaming the opposition leader for the deaths of protesters. And then there was this little nugget.
And with you publicly calling for these protests and saying that you will be the leader of this transition, you have made yourself the face of this opposition in many ways. And I want to ask you, because Bobby Ghosh of Time magazine calls you a Pahlavi pretenders and says that you lack any meaningful organization with Iran. I want to allow you to respond to this. He wrote this, quote, "The Islamic Republic couldn't ask for a better foil than Pahlavi. His visibility allows the regime to portray protesters as tools of foreign powers and the discredited monarchy. Every photo op in Washington, every meeting with Israeli officials, every call for international intervention reinforces the regime's narrative and undermines the legitimacy of the protests."
She sounds like a tool for propaganda. Yes. She sounds like so here's the thing. The problem with this guy is that he's friendly with the government in Washington, D.C. and the government in Jerusalem, the Israeli government. And that's why we have to be hostile toward him. And that isn't that actually, if these protests continue and the people of Iran are fine with that and they would love to be a government that is on friendly terms with Israel and America, that's a miracle. Right. That's wonderful news. And Norah O'Donnell's treating this guy like he's the villain.
Yeah. In the meantime, it was her Morningside colleague, Margaret Brennan, who, to your point earlier, had Ilhan Omar on and is like, This is so wonderful for you to be here, talking about the Minneapolis protests, where they are so different, but acting like Ilhan Omar is the freedom fighter.
Yes.
And that Antifa and the paid protesters, thank God for them, but yet the people of Iran, who are willing to give their lives, God bless them, for this opportunity at finally having a chance at a free country, finally have someone, this leader of the movement, as she calls him, the face of the opposition, who says, maybe there's actually something here we can rally around, organize around. Wow. He's the problem. They're the problem.
To be fair, Norah O'Donnell is merely being a sharp-eyed and disconnected journalist who does not have a dog in this fight. She doesn't have a rooting cause. She's really just trying to get to the truth. So now let's listen to her very tough grilling of the Ayatollah Khamenei or any representative of the Iranian government. Let's listen to that now. Oh, that didn't happen. That's right. There is no Norah O'Donnell interview grilling the totalitarian Islamists there in Tehran. They don't like women, let alone the free press, let alone anything having to do with the West. But yeah. All right. Well, by the way, hat tip to Nicholas Fondacaro of Media Research Center, who sits through these interviews and breaks down little juicy nuggets like that. Just another example of the great work done by Media Research Center. Now, for his part, President Trump yesterday made an announcement. He says that he's weighing lots of different options having to do with the situation in Iran. And there's more to come this week, but at the beginning yesterday, they have announced a 25% tariff on any country that is currently doing business with Iran. And by the way, there are a lot of countries doing business with Iran, a lot of European countries doing business with Iran. They have now announced, the president has announced this tariff, 25% across the board on everything coming from any government. This is a good way to economically isolate them. Right. They have no allies there. They have no allies in the Arab world. Does not like Iran. They're just as scared of Iran as Israel and America is, and rightly so. They would love to see this regime fall. The only ally for the Iranian government right now, openly, appears to be Vladimir Putin and Russia. China, I think, is also on their side, but they're not really doing anything. And North Korea can't do anything because they're bankrupt. They're They're run by a communist dictator. So that's where things stand now in Iran. And it would be nice to see if the media were actually on the side of freedom in this obvious
Or would
case.
just talk about it. Or just report on it.
Or just report on
there.
it. Yeah, that would be nice. It's 6:23. Coming up, we're going to share with you a pretty sound, reasonable, rational, and I think incredibly positive idea coming out of Congress right now with regard to our children, their education, and their future prospects. And, spoiler alert, the idea has come from a Democrat in Congress. That's right, I said it, and you'll hear it next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's a great Tuesday morning here on O'Connor and Company at 6:36. Thanks for tuning in here as we plow through the dark ages of mid-January, warmed by the glow of our residual Christmas lights that we refuse to take down. It's O'Connor and Company. 7:05, John Myrick will join us. He's Republican running for Maryland governor. 8:05, Dr. Matthew Spalding of Hillsdale College here in D.C. Talk about a big birthday that we'll all be celebrating together here on O'Connor and Company. And then at 8:35, Senator Marsha Blackburn about what the Senate is itching to do. Specifically, Senator Blackburn is itching to do with regard to the fraudsters in Minneapolis. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor with Cassie Smedile. Good morning, Cassie, and Happy New Year to you.
Good morning. Happy New Year. I love that we can still say that.
By the way, I forgot to mention at the top of this hour, if you missed our program yesterday, we gave you an update on Julie Gunlock's health situation. She is still in the middle of a health crisis, I think is the best way to call it. She had an emergency situation last week. She has had a surgery. She's now on the road to recovery, but it's going to be a long recovery process. So we love Julie. She's our sister here on the show. And if you love Julie as much as we do, go to givesendgo.com/Julie Gunlock. You can support her and her family during this time, either financially, which would be fabulous, or with your prayers. But let us know that you're praying for her. There's a little prayer button there, and you can let us know. I love seeing all the notes from WMAL listeners who know Julie the way we've all gotten to know her right here on this program. And trust me, if you feel like Julie's a friend, it's true, because what you hear on this show is what you get. That's Julie. And so go and help her out. She would love it. Thank you for that, Cassie.
Yes.
So I mentioned just a moment ago that there was a great idea coming out of Congress, and it's from a Democrat. And I yearn for the Democrats to go back to being sane and rational and reasonable and focus on. It's funny, Rahm Emanuel, who is running for president, he just hasn't officially announced. There's a lot of people running for president. They just haven't officially announced it yet. Rahm is one of them. And he delivered a speech in South Carolina, or no, I think it was Mississippi. Now that I think about it. Yeah, was it Mississippi? And he's been focusing on things like children having access to social media and how deteriorating it is. And he went to Mississippi to talk about what has become known as the Mississippi Miracle, which is the education system in the state of Mississippi went back to basics and started focusing on phonics and literacy and reading. And suddenly, within like 2 years, their literacy scores are through the roof. And Rahm Emanuel, and don't forget, Rahm Emanuel was one of the political bugs in Bill Clinton's ear back when he ran for re-election in '96, and he made it all about school uniforms and garbage like that. Rahm Emanuel is a very smart political guy, and I don't think he can make it through the Democrat primary process, but he gave an interview the other day. I think it was, I can't remember what magazine it was, but he said, listen, the Democrats in 2028, they got two wings right now. They've got the resistance wing and they've got the revival wing. Gavin Newsom's leading the resistance wing. I would like to lead the revival wing, which is it's time to emerge from the Trump derangement syndrome. It's time. We can't just be about resistance. We've got to be about, what he believes there needs to be a Democrat revival. So it's very, I don't support the Democrat Party because fundamentally I think that they've got a serious values and principle problem, but I wish they weren't nuts.
Right.
I don't think that's good for our country, right?
Sure. I would love to have someone like a Rahm Emanuel that at least gave me pause, gave me something I was interested in listening to and could consider. Because I think that's how most people feel.
I think most Americans are like that. And again, don't get me wrong. I've voted Republican my entire life, except for one moment in my life. Shockingly, I did not vote for a Republican for president. I don't want to get into it, but beyond that, I've been black. But that's so when a Democrat emerges and has a good idea that we can embrace and we can actually all agree on, we've got to celebrate it. So here is, I present to you, Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. She represents Southwest Washington State, which is not super. It ain't Seattle, I promise you. So that's another reason why she emerges this way. Here is a social media video she put out talking about a amendment that she's just put forth for an appropriations bill having to do with education. Take a listen.
My name is Marie Gluesenkamp Perez. I'm at Onalaska High School shop class, and one of the things I learned is that, while I was able to take AP level photography and sculpture in school, there's no equivalent available for welding or woodshop. And so their GPA, if you're trying to go into a college program, a lot of these kids can't afford to take shop class and have a competitive application. And so we know that things like woodshop and welding, these are difficult, valuable, challenging things.
All right. She needs to get a better social media manager. Okay. Cassie, you worked in comms, for God's sake. What would you say to the person in charge of the Congresswoman's comms team there? Would you put that video out or say, hey, maybe we should adjust the audio here?
Yeah, you need to go on Amazon, buy a little lapel mic for about $10 and give it to her, like all the other TikTokers out there. But yeah,
truly.
We take her point.
If you can if you can wade through the distractions of the sound, she's actually in a wood shop in a schoolroom, and so that's why you're hearing all those noises in the background.
Is that the new bell these days? Is that what that beeping was?
Yeah. So her amendment would make advanced placement credits available for students for career and technical education classes that they take in high school. There's no credits like that available, and you reach a point, as you will learn sooner than you think, Cassie, or maybe you remember from when you were in high school. You in the final 2 years of high school, you're loading up on AP credits because you want to be a viable candidate for the best colleges and all that jazz. And so that means you're focusing on just those classes that offer advanced placement, which, generally speaking, are either in the humanities or in STEM, but they're not in practical skills and things like woodshop, things like welding, things like stuff that now, frankly, I'd love to take this one step further and expand our shop classes like that would then get people into a trade school rather than some four-year university. But it's a great idea. We need to re-emphasize the importance of these things and these skills and these jobs.
Yes, if I may, a little plug for my day job, Coin, but we just finished our Coin charity vote, and the winner, this is exclusive information, we're not announcing this till later this week, but is Mike Rowe Works Foundation, which, as you know, Mike Rowe has been championing this.
This is his thing.
There is, as I've learned through this, there are 20 trade job openings for every one new trade worker. They're really good paying jobs. To be able to know how to do this, you are going to, for far less money, probably not much debt, if any at all, come out, have a very good paying job that allows you to immediately be able to provide for yourself and hopefully the family that you're growing. Yeah. This should be emphasized. It should be prioritized.
And by the way, these are great jobs, by the way, and they're skills that we need here. We need. And I know this is going to sound racist, xenophobic, but I don't care anymore. I would love to have a tradesman come into my home to repair something and not need a translator.
Yes.
Okay?
That's fair.
I'm sorry. That's just the reality of the case. But too often, those jobs are now relegated to people who are brand new to our country.
Right.
And that doesn't make any sense. My brother was a plumber his entire career, and he made more than me most of my life.
Yeah, or who are visitors to our country. So you want to talk about immigration reform and getting this all together. We need to start training the next generation of workers that we need. And by the way, just as a fun little tidbit, men or women, I guess, because, I'm a pretty handy gal, this is really good to put on your dating resume. Hi, I know how to repair things around the house.
Dude.
That's good.
You are the one item I had on my dating resume was that I love cooking.
Oh, yes.
And that ended up, and now I cook every meal in the house, which
So does my husband. I think this is a big marketing gimmick that women were the cooks.
It allows us to marry way out of our league, and that is something that your husband and I have in common. It's 6:45. Congratulations and thank you to Congresswoman Glusenkamp-Perez. Get a better social media team. Gotta
Good idea. Better execution.
Better delivery of the message. 6:45.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese. Weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL. Making sense of the news.
As we mentioned yesterday with Kathy Shalega, Maryland delegate from Baltimore County, the legislative session has begun in Annapolis, and your taxes are already going up. Now, Marylanders already know that Wes Moore has raised your taxes, and the Democrats in Annapolis have raised your taxes. They have to bridge that big budget deficit gap somehow, and, of course, it's coming out of your paycheck. But this tax increase is the most insidious and deceitful you're ever going to see. Because they're raising your taxes without actually raising your taxes. No. Instead, what they're doing is, this has to do with your property taxes, by the way. What they're doing out of Annapolis is just a blanket reassessment of your property value. It's almost completely sweeping and almost completely across the board. As of now, they're going to be reassessing your home to be valued at approximately 12.7% higher in its value, which means you will now be paying taxes on the value of your home that the government has determined, bureaucrats have determined your home is worth more. Of course, you don't get anything out of the increased value of your home. You haven't realized any of that profit. You haven't realized any of that. And if you are on a fixed income, if you've retired in Maryland, if you have made your last home purchase and you're going to stay here the rest of your life, which would be a nice thing to do, it doesn't matter. The value of your home is worth more, so they're reassessing it so they can get more property taxes from you, and you have nothing to say about it.
It is such a scam. It's truly insane this can happen. You didn't have a chance to go to the voting booth. I mean, you did when you voted for these people to get into office, so maybe that could have been your moment. But they're able to do it under the guise of not a tax increase, an assessment.
Yeah, but I mean, so by the way, if we have a bust in the real estate market, which has happened often, and suddenly the value of your home decreases, you think they're going to give you a break?
Sure.
You think they're going to be Johnny on the spot? Hey, everybody, we got to stop everything and reassess because we're taking too much tax money from. Of course not. They'll be dragged kicking and screaming to assess the value of your home lower. But it's typical. So John Myrick, he's the Republican running for governor in Maryland. He's been calling this out. He's been drawing attention to it single-handedly, trying to stop this thing from happening. He's going to be joining us coming up at 7:05, so keep it here. Right now it's 6:52.
I'm Rob Nichols, President and CEO of the American Bankers Association. Sophisticated scam